Hello, hello. Welcome. Excited to chat with you for the next hour. Talk about teens, how to become the mom your teen wants to tell the truth to. Grateful to have you here. And I'm going to wait just about 30 seconds to a minute to have people join in. We're right on the hour right now. And we're not going to wait for late people. We're just going to wait for the moment. Happy to have you here, intentional moms. I love to talk to intentional moms. I love to share what I have learned over the years and pulled together. Ooh, getting my thing all set up and ready here. Okay, 10:01. We're going to do this. We are going to get started. There will be a replay. So just know that will be showing up in your email inbox a little bit later today. And we're going to get this party started. Why teens lie, even in loving families, right? You've taught them. It's all good. They have things they are learning. You are still learning again. I just want to welcome you. Like I said, I love to talk to intentional moms. Today I'm going to show you why teens lie, why it keeps happening even when you've taught them better, and what actually changes that pattern. By the end of this hour, you're going to understand a little better why teens lie and what you can do to invite honesty. And by the end of this workshop, if you feel drawn to working together, I'll share with you how you can continue in that direction. My goal is to teach you in such a way to earn your trust and show you it is possible and how it's possible, because I can't teach you everything that you need to know in this 1 hour. Let's see, I've still got people coming in. I'm going to make my screen a little smaller, a little more doable to read. Look at that, more friends coming. Okay, like I said, by the end of this hour, my goal is to help you see differently. The goal is to understand a little bit differently. Can't teach everything in this 1 hour. There is an opportunity for more after that. This class is specifically for moms of teenagers who want more honesty in their home without constant interrogations, right? That's no fun for anyone. Without feeling like a detective and without losing connection or authority. By the end of today, you'll understand 3 shifts that change whether your teen hides things or wants to tell the truth. So I want to kick off this hour by typing in the chat. I love to utilize the chat. I want this to be interactive for you. This is not just sit back and passively listen as you're multitasking, although I recognize sometimes multitasking needs to be done. So I want to hear type in the chat. Tell me where you live and how old your kids are. It's helpful for me to see what age range we're talking about here. And I love to see where you live because it's fun for me to be able to see where you live. So utilize the chat, get your fingers going, start typing. I see we've got Allison in Orlando. Excellent, with a 17-year-old daughter. So great. I am in Colorado. Sometimes people think that I'm either in Texas or Utah because I used to live in Texas. I find myself in Utah often because my older kids live there. So just so you know, I'm in Colorado. Let's see, we've got, look at that, all this typing out. Kathy in Seattle, Crystal in Utah, Karen in Alaska. I work with kids of all ages, love it. Michelle's in California. Ada is in Utah. Okay, so great. I love to be able to see, and if you're on the replay, I recognize some people aren't able to be here live. I still love to hear, so send me an email and reply. Tell me all the things because it's helpful for me to see. Okay, so great. Oh yeah, I brought a picture of my family because I'm not going to utilize a slide here today. So here's, let's see if I can go this way. Here's the most recent picture of my family. I've got 3 adult children, one's married, and I've got a 16-year-old at home. Some of you have seen her showing up in my content. I'm Kristen Duke, and today I am your coach for this hour. As someone who grew up with a pretty great mom, but still struggled to trust or feel emotionally safe with her, I had to figure out how to break that pattern with my own teenagers. It is possible because I didn't want just surface level answers or a surface level relationship with my kids. I wanted real conversation, real honesty, and real connection. And I'm happy to say I broke that cycle, and you can too. Now I support moms with that same goal because I don't believe the narrative that says teens are sneaky or dishonest or impossible. And I don't believe that lying is something you just have to deal with during the teen years. And I definitely don't believe the goal is to just survive until they grow out of it. If you've heard the phrase, we're not just going to survive the teen years, we want to, and the goal is to thrive in the teen years. So that is my goal for you as well. I created the Trusted Method, which is a roadmap to help moms step out of what I call detective mode. That exhausting cycle of questioning and second guessing and wondering what is actually true. But this isn't just about catching lies or fixing behavior. This is about protecting the long-term relationship, not just the here and now, long-term, even when they become adults. Because you can't just push through the teen years and hope honesty shows up later. We're seeing more and more young adults who don't share much with their parents. And that doesn't usually start at age 25. It starts in patterns that were never addressed at age 15. And this work is about shifting those patterns now. I see some of you have adult kids as well. It's not too late. I want you to know this work can still be done at any age. And the earlier you do it, the more you notice it. When you notice it, the better. This work is about shifting those patterns now. We're not talking about controlling. We're not talking about fear in parenting. That's what we're going to begin unpacking today. At the very end of this presentation, at the end of this hour, I've got some opportunities for open coaching. One or two of you, if you have specific questions with your teen that you want to ask, whether it's about lying or something else, my goal is at the end of this 1 hour of instruction that a few of you can have that opportunity. Let me start with something small because this is where lying usually starts. As my kids were growing up, I had a rule in my house. Packaged snacks were for lunches and outings. They were not just for grabbing at home. So one day, what do I find? A granola bar wrapper stuffed in one of the couches at my house. I see it. I pick it up, I hold it in the air to all of my kids, and I said, who ate this granola bar? Right? I'm just like throwing it around like this. And you know what happened? Nothing. No one said a word. Not one of my kids who had literally taught to tell the truth would admit it. Not even a hint, just silence. And I remember thinking, are we seriously lying about a granola bar right now? And maybe you've had some version of this moment. A missed chore, a story that doesn't quite add up, something small that suddenly feels bigger, and underneath it is that feeling. Frustration, confusion, disappointment. Like, why is this even a thing? Why don't they just tell me the truth? At the time, I thought the problem was simple. They knew better, and they were choosing not to do better. But what I didn't understand yet was that moment had very little to do with a granola bar and everything to do with something deeper that most parents never see. And maybe for you, it's not a granola bar. Maybe it's something bigger. Maybe you found out that your teenager lied about where they were, snuck their phone when they said it was put away. I hear that all the time. Told you that they finished something when they clearly didn't. Deleted messages, hid something on the phone, gave you half a story, and you found out the rest later. And that feeling hits different. It's not just frustrating, it's heavy. It's disappointing. It makes you question things like, can I trust what they're telling me? Is this getting worse? Am I losing my influence? And I want you to hear this right now. I see you. I see how much you care. I see how badly you want to guide them, protect them, and raise them to be honest people, individual humans. And I also see how confusing it is when you've taught them better, when you've had the conversations, when you've explained why honesty matters, and it's still happening. And here's what I want you to know before we go any further. There is a reason this pattern keeps showing up, and more importantly, there is a way to change it. And it's not about controlling more, nor is it about questioning harder. It isn't about tightening everything up, but by understanding something most parents have never been taught. I wasn't taught. I had to learn this later in life. You likely weren't taught. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. So just as a reminder, I've seen a couple of you coming in just recently. Go watch the replay at the beginning when it comes out. This is an interactive class. Not just so I can see what you're saying, but because when you participate, you process differently. You absorb more information. So right now, I want you to drop one word in the chat. How do you feel when you catch your teen lying? Just one word. Drop it in the chat. I'm going to force myself to take a sip of my drink. A sigh. Okay. Love it. A sigh of what? Frustration. What's a feeling you feel? Got worried, disrespected. Yes, very common. See, I'm going to wait to see a couple other thoughts. How do you feel? What does it feel like when you catch your teen lying? Anxious. Okay. Yes. Worried. Great. Love it. So important to be able to articulate, tap into what you feel. Disappointed. Okay, so good. Isn't it nice to see that you're not alone? Maybe you picked one word, somebody else picked another word, and you're like, yes, that one too. But I was told I was only supposed to pick one word. I'm sure we can all feel and agree that it's kind of a mixture of a lot of these different feelings. Now hear this. If you feel like you're not getting the full story with your teen, you are in the right place. If you've caught your teen lying and don't know how to stop the pattern, you're in the right place. If you don't feel like the mom you want to be in those moments, you are in the right place. You do not have to stay stuck in this cycle. And by the end of this hour, you'll understand exactly what needs to shift and what to do next. I'm not here to give you generic advice. I'm here because I know how to help you. As a teenager, I didn't feel emotionally safe with my own mom. She would say things like, I bend over backwards for you, and this is how you treat me. Now, I validate her hurt feelings now when I was closed off. I get it. And I carried shame for years that I couldn't be who she wanted me to be, who she expected me to be. I felt like I was broken somehow, when in all actuality, I was a pretty good teenager. I wasn't a big rule breaker. And still I carried that shame. And that's what I want you to be able to understand and identify and hopefully prevent. That distance did not magically fix itself when I became an adult. I knew I did not want that same disconnection with my own kids, and I saw it starting to happen in subtle ways. For example, like with the granola bar. So I did the work. I studied what actually builds trust. I confronted my own blind spots. I changed how I showed up. Today, my kids, 25, 23, 20, and 16, I can say that I am deeply grateful for the relationship that we have because they talk to me. They actually listen to the advice that I have to give. They consult with me, even about the hard things. Out of that journey with my mom and then transferring it into the relationship with my own kids, I built a clear, practical roadmap for shifting the pattern of disconnect right at its root. And that's what I'm going to begin sharing with you today. During this hour, you'll get a sampling of what I teach. And by the end, you'll know whether going deeper to work with the trusted method with me as your coach is the right next step for you. My goal for you is relief. Relief from the second guessing, relief from the tension, relief from wondering what's actually true. And I'm going to be direct with you. Some things might be hard to hear. I used to soften this message a little bit because I didn't want to hurt mom's feelings, because I know how hard it is to want a relationship with your teen that feels just out of reach. But today, I'm going to tell you the truth. You get to decide if it stings or if it shifts something in you. Sometimes it's both. Now, let me tell you something that changed everything for me. Do you remember when your teenager was a toddler? You're at the park, you're kicking the ball around, the ball rolls into the street, and without even thinking, your toddler starts heading towards it. In that moment, something shifts in you. You don't calmly explain traffic patterns. You don't say, whenever you're ready, sweetheart, come back. You run. And if you're too far away, you yell. Not because you're angry, it's because you see something they do not see. You see danger, and your urgency is love. Now, fast forward, they're teenagers. The street looks a little different now. It might be lying, hiding half-truths, things that don't quite add up. And sometimes I feel like I'm standing on the curb watching moms run into the street. I see you questioning harder, pushing for answers, trying to get the truth because you love your teenager, because you want to guide them, because you know honesty matters. And here's what I need you to hear right at the beginning of this class. If something I say today challenges you, if it makes you pause, if it makes you rethink something you've always believed, you are not doing a bad job. It's because I see something you might not see. I see where this pattern leads if it doesn't shift. And I care too much. I care too much about the moms of this world to not say something. So today in this hour, I'm going to show you what exactly changes whether your teen hides things or tells you the truth. And later I'll show you how to go deeper with this. But for now, I'm asking you to listen. Strive not to be defensive, not skeptical, just open to new ideas. Because sometimes the person calling out, me, something calling out to you, is not trying to control you. They're trying to show you something you cannot see. So put yourself in that position. All right, I'm going to read a list of examples, and I want you to drop a yes in the chat if any of these sounds familiar with your teenager. You ask a simple question, and you're not sure you're getting the full truth. You hear something that doesn't quite add up, but you can't prove it. You find something out later and realize you weren't told the whole story. You ask again, and your teen gets defensive or shuts down. You feel like you have to piece things together to figure out what's exactly true. You think, why is it so hard to just be honest? Drop a yes in the chat if any of that spoke to you. And if one more than another, drop which one spoke the loudest to you. Okay, Allison says yes. Feeling it? Yes, one of those scenarios. I know I listed a few different scenarios, and just if one of them, yes, okay. Saying yes sounds familiar. Did one sound more familiar than another? Feel free to drop that. What about this? You leave the conversation feeling frustrated or unsettled. You replay it later thinking, did I handle that wrong? You feel discouraged, disrespected, but also guilty for how you reacted. Maybe you avoid certain conversations because you don't want it to turn into a whole thing. You worry this pattern is creating distance. You think, I don't want this to be our relationship. You feel alone, like possibly other families must not deal with this in the same way. Yes, piecing together what's going on, defensiveness. I get one-word answers to questions at times, and I feel like maybe I'm asking too many questions. Yes, teenagers often say they feel interrogated with a basic question, right? So yes, the goal is to earn their trust so that they don't feel that way. And sometimes it's examining, that's a new word. It's examining your patterns. Yes, right. Kate's like, yes, I like that word. It's examining your patterns to see what you can do differently. Answers to stop me from asking questions, not necessarily the truth. Yes, okay. Yeah, so it's not always truth related. This is a class about honesty and lying and truth telling, and it's not always yes, okay, good. I love Kate. You're going to use that word now. All right, so look at that. Doesn't it feel good to realize that it's not just you, that other people are going through the same thing? Hopefully this helps you feel a little less alone. This is one of my big goals in coaching moms, is to feel like you're not alone. It's happening to others. And seeing other moms with the same challenges has that beauty of that validation. Shrugs, I don't know, ad nauseum. Okay, so good. Yes, I want you to know, look into my eyes as I say this. You are not failing. You're stuck in a pattern. You don't need to become a different mom. And the parenting advice telling you to hold them accountable or be stricter is incomplete. You're not a bad mom. There are no bad moms here. You are an intentional mom. I want you to type that into the chat. I am an intentional mom. It is so important to be the intentional mom, to validate yourself. I'm doing all of the things. You're here. You're participating in this. You are an intentional mom. We don't do bad moms. Kate, thank you. She wrote it first, quickest, the fastest. I want to see everybody typing it in the chat. I am an intentional mom. You are here because you care and you want a different dynamic. What you're doing feels incomplete and something more, something different needs to happen. Great. I'm an intentional mom. I'm an intentional mom. I love it. I want to see others continue to drop it in the chat. I'm going to take one more sip of my drink while you do that. If you're watching the replay, feel free to say it out loud. Send me an email. I am an intentional mom. So good. Great. It is important to be able to validate yourself, to be able to recognize, you know what? I'm still learning. I'm still growing. We are all a work in progress, and we're not going to shame ourselves for what we didn't know before, but what we're learning now. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to really think about this. What has to exist before your teen is willing to tell you the truth? It could be a number of words, and there could be a variety of words. Trust. Look at that. Allison's got it. She was quick with that. Trust. Many of you are here because maybe you're not really sure, or maybe you think you know, but something still isn't clicking. So what has to exist? Emotional safety, trust. Yes, that they feel they won't be judged and railroaded into something. Feeling emotionally safe. Yes, if you guys have been in my orbit long enough, you know these words, trust, emotional safety, they are interchangeable. It is my goal. It is my life's mission to teach this because so many good intentional moms think that what they're doing from what their parents did, even trying to do it differently, does that. And I'm here to help you see what can be done differently. So yes, I'm going to write that as the first thing I'm going to write up here is I'm going to write safety / trust. I'm just going to write trust and know that emotional safety is interchangeable. Here's what I want you to understand. Lying doesn't decrease when your teen changes. Lying decreases when telling the truth feels safe. Safe through trust. And that starts with something most parents aren't looking at yet. I know what some of you are thinking. I am safe. I do everything for my kids. I show up. I don't yell like I see other parents doing. And listen, mom to mom, I believe you. I see you. You love your teenager. But here's the hard part. Love and feeling safe to tell the truth are not always the same thing. Okay? Love, feeling safe are not always the same thing. You can love deeply and still create some pressure without realizing it. You can provide everything and still unintentionally communicate tension, urgency, disappointment, or emotional weight. Because we all have blind spots. Cover my eyes. We all got blind spots, and blind spots do not mean failure. They mean there's something you cannot see yet. The power of yet. And that's what we're going to uncover today. My goal for you is this. By the end of this training, you will understand why lying keeps showing up, even in good families, what your reactions are teaching your teenager without you even realizing it, and what to do next if you're ready to change this pattern at the root. In the next few minutes, I want to help you see what you can do to change the dynamic in your home, no matter what your teenager does. Okay, I want you to type in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to change your approach even if your teenager doesn't change a thing at first? 1 meaning, nope, not ready, you're not going to do it. 10 meaning, I'm going to do it, I'm up for it, I can change even if my teenager doesn't change. And you know what? We can have some honesty too. If you feel like you're at a 5 or a 7, that's okay. But I want to see, we got some 10s. Okay, great. 10, ready to change your approach, even if your teenager doesn't change first. That is what we do as adults, as moms, as parents, as the guide. We change. And guess what? They start to learn to change when you start to shift a little bit. Okay, Kathy's a 9. That's great. No problem. Love it. We're also practicing honesty here too, right? When we practice honesty and we are honest with our kids, then they start to learn it as well. Now, let me say something that might surprise you. How many of you believe if my teen would just be more honest, this wouldn't be an issue? If they would just tell the truth the first time, how hard can it be, right? Stop hiding things, stop giving half answers, then everything would feel easier. Am I right? I mean, come on, why can't they just figure this out? And many of you have tried asking more questions, explaining why honesty matters. They call this a lecture. Giving consequences, trying to stay calm, and yet it is still happening. So I want to start by saying something clearly. You're not failing as a mom. You are stuck in a pattern. I want you to type stuck in the chat. Stuck in a pattern. There are so many patterns in parenting teenagers, and oftentimes it really is just feeling stuck. Yes, stuck in a pattern. Thank you for typing it in the chat. It's good for you to be able to internalize these things. If you feel like you're not getting the full story, if you walk away thinking, why didn't they just tell me the truth? This doesn't mean you're bad at this. It means you are repeating a loop you were never taught how to break. And here's something else I want you to hear. You do not need to become a permissive mom. You don't need to ignore lying. We're not going to start walking on eggshells. You need a different method, a new way of understanding what's actually happening in those moments. Because a lot of parenting advice says, hold them accountable, be more strict with the rules, make consequences bigger. But if you've ever noticed that, the more you push for the truth, the more your teen shuts down, deflects, or gives you less. You're not imagining that. Because lying is not solved by pressure when something deeper is missing. And here's the part that will give you hope. You can change this dynamic, not by controlling or questioning harder, but by becoming the parent your teen experiences differently in those moments. Okay, so you ready to learn how to become a different parent? Okay, different, upgraded, newer version of yourself. I want to say something here because I don't want you to walk away thinking, great, this is all on me. It's not. Teenagers do lie. Yes, 2.0, I love that. Version 2.0, upgraded. Teenagers do lie. They are testing boundaries, figuring out who they are, trying on independence. And yes, sometimes avoiding consequences. And honestly, sometimes they're not even being fully truthful to themselves yet. You really have to understand sometimes they're lying to themselves and they don't even fully understand that. They're still sorting things out. So I'm not here to tell you your teen shouldn't lie. Of course, we all want honesty. Of course, you want to teach them that. But here's where most parents get stuck. They focus all of their energy on how do I get my teen to stop lying, instead of asking the question that actually changes things. The question, what makes telling the truth feel like a good idea or a bad idea? Because that's the moment everything starts to shift. Now, think back to this granola bar moment, okay? And I said, who ate this to my children? What happened? Silence. Could you imagine if there's a room full of women here? We're here virtually, but if we're all in the same room, and I see a wrapper, you maybe accidentally threw it in the trash can, but it missed the trash can and fell on the floor. And I'm like, who ate this? Is anybody gonna actually want to fess up to that? You'd be like, right? I mean, how awkward is that? So imagine me waving that in my kids' faces. I'm able to look back and realize, okay, noted, blind spot, how I responded. Something in that moment made telling the truth feel like a bad idea, which was my freak out response. I wasn't a yeller at my kids, but I certainly was doing stuff like this in a variety of ways. At the time, I thought they are lying. But what I didn't see yet was that moment was training them What happens when the teen tells the truth? What happens when what it feels like to be honest with me, whether that moment was going to feel simple or heavy. Without realizing it, I was shaping the decision they made next. Because every moment that teaches your teen one thing, is it better to tell the truth or not? And that's the shift we're going to start with breaking down. Okay, so we're going to get to shift number 1. Okay, we got 3 shifts we're going to discuss today. So shift number 1, I'm going to start utilizing my board a little bit more now. I've got a little bit of a glare on here, don't I? See. Okay, shift 1. I'm going to use my black just because I like colors, but black shows up well. So it's the reaction training loop. We're going to call this the reaction training loop. Okay, can we see that? Yes. Okay, so this is what the loop looks like. We've got the teen choice, right? So we could say, in this instance, we're going to say granola bar. Okay, then we go like this, and we got a parent reaction, which was my freak out. I like to call it freak out because, you know, that's what it was. And then we have the teen strategy. Okay, and then oftentimes it goes into a loop just like that. This right here is what I call the reaction training loop. So now we're going to plug in what actually happened. So the teen choice, in this moment, we're going to say, like I said, granola bar. You insert what you'd like. The parent reaction was me holding up, freaking out. On the surface, it seems reasonable. I'm asking, who ate this, right? But I'm boiling up inside because we talked about how we're not going to eat granola bars at home. It was too expensive. It was too hard for me to keep up with. It was meant for lunches and outings. Didn't they get that? But my tone, energy, facial expression, intensity, all of that teaches them to their strategy, which is a lie, deny. I've heard so many stories. A mom in the Trusted Academy recently told me they were talking about chores, and she asked the teen if she'd done their chores, and she said yes. And one of her chores was emptying the trash. And she looks at the trash can. It is clearly not emptied, right? Like there are some things that are that are like right in your face. Like, you told me you emptied the trash. The trash is clearly not emptied. And they're going to defend themselves to their dying day. Because when your reaction is not just your words, it's what your teen experiences. And in that moment, I wasn't calm. I had some edge with the granola bar, a little intensity, a little someone better tell me the truth, right? Gritting my teeth. And what happens next? The teen strategy is silence. So it could be a lie or it could just be silence, right? We all know that there's what they call it, sins of omission or sins of commission. Omission is the silence. Commission is saying I didn't do it or lying, and omission is, oh, I'm not going to lie, I'm just not going to say anything. But here's the part most parents miss. That moment didn't just happen, it trained something. So if we take this, get this other color, it's training, this whole loop is training them, training their reaction. I'm going to call it just reaction training. So like I said, it's this loop that goes over and over again. Every reaction teaches your teen one thing: what happens when I tell the truth? So think about it. In that granola bar moment, what did telling the truth feel like? Would it feel light or easy or a little tense, a little risky? So their brain makes the decision, not worth it, and now a pattern starts forming. Mistake, choice, right? Mistake, reaction, hide it next time. And this loop keeps going over and over. Yes, risky. It happens again and again. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where your teen finally tells you the truth and your reaction is frustration, lecturing, or a lot of questions, and then later you think, why didn't they tell me sooner? This is why. because your reaction today is shaping what they do tomorrow. Reaction, your reaction, equals whether or not it feels safe to tell the truth. It determines the tomorrow. Now, I want to be really clear here. This is not about blaming you, because every mom in here has had the moment, including myself. This is just one example of how I freaked out. I share more when I coach you further in the private space. I share stories all the time about how I messed up, how I've learned from it, and you get to learn from my mess ups. But this is about helping you see something powerful. You have more influence over this situation and truth telling than you think, because most moms focus here on the mistake. This is where the focus is. How do I get them to stop lying? Because the shift happens here. This is where the parent reaction is actually where the shift starts to happen. And when that shift happens, everything starts to change. So go back to this granola bar moment for a second. What if instead of the moment of feeling tense, it felt simple? What if telling the truth felt like no big deal instead of this might turn into something? I've trained them how to respond because of how I responded when they did something that I didn't like them to do. That's the difference we're talking today. Now, if you're feeling that tenseness in your body at the idea of having a lie be, quote, no big deal, that's normal. That's normal in the beginning of the work. The tension that comes along with, wait, no, that doesn't feel like that's how it's supposed to be. It doesn't mean that we ignore it. I'm not telling you to be a permissive parent. It simply means a different response, a trusted response, an emotionally safe response. And I've got a roadmap for you for that, which is what I'll tell you about at the end of our 3 shifts. Let that sit with your body and see how that feels. Being safe enough your teen feels safe to be imperfect with. That's what you really want, isn't it? Type a yes in the chat if that's what you want. Your teen feeling safe enough to be imperfect with, right? Because we are all imperfect. They are imperfect. They are learning and growing. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. Okay. Let's get to shift number 2. I'm going to scoop my board over. Okay, great. Shift number 2 is, what did I write it with before? The truth risk meter. Okay? Shift 2. Truth, we're just going to write truth versus risk. Okay, meter. Okay, can we see that? Yes, okay, that's at the top of my screen. Okay, I want you to think about the gas gauge in your car. I'm gonna attempt to draw something like the gas gauge, okay? So it's something like this, right? We've got empty over here, we've got full over here, and we got a little knob that tells us where we are in the process, right? We got some of these lines on there, and we got this situation, right? Okay, can we see that? So I want you to think of this as your truth risk meter. And so as we talk about shift number 2 here, if you're just coming in, I see a couple people just came in. We're on shift number 2. Watch for the replay a little bit later so you can watch the rest of this. Now that you can see how your reaction trains your brain, trains your teen's brain, that's what we talked about in shift number 1, we're going to go a level deeper. I want you to imagine that every teen has this running in their brain all the time, the truth risk meter. Here's the question their brain is constantly asking. Is it safe or risky to tell the truth right now? Not is this right or wrong? They're not thinking that quite yet, even though I know you've taught them better. Not what would my mom want me to do? There's some of that too with the kids, the perfectionists wanting to do everything all the time, right? So on the left side is, I'm going to do green because green means go. It's safe to tell the truth. Safe truth, okay? So this, even though, so, okay, see I drew this, I knew I was going to draw something wrong. This is like our gas gauge, like with empty and full, but we're going to draw a little S we're going to draw like an S and a not safe. How about that? So this is safe to tell the truth. And this is scary, not telling the truth. Or risky. That's what we're going to call this, is risky. Risky. They're like, okay, is it safe or is it risky? And that meter is constantly moving depending on, like we discussed in shift number 1, if you know, you know. We talk about their prefrontal cortex. They're constantly, it's still growing, right? And we know that it's going to be developing until 24, 25, whatever. I don't know. I still feel like I'm still developing. If you know that, you have to remember that this also applies here. Their brain is asking, what's going to happen to me if I tell my mom the truth? If it feels safe, they're more likely to tell you things. Okay, right? Safe. If it feels risky, they hesitate, they minimize, they withhold information, or they lie. Now let's go back to this granola bar for a second. In that moment, where was the meter? Was it safe to tell the truth, or did it seem risky to tell the truth? Right? Thinking about that. Remember, their brain is also still developing, even though that you know that you've told them and taught them better. This is what they're constantly assessing. Truth feels risky when your teen expects a big reaction, right? Reaction from you. I like to say sometimes there's yelling or freak out. A lecture, right? Listen, mom to mom, I get it. It's not a lecture, but it feels like a lecture to them. Lots of questions. So many questions. Teenagers do not like any type of question. And again, this is not about you being a bad mom. This is about what the moment feels like to them. It's important to understand what that moment feels like to them. Truth feels safe when it feels calm. Okay, calm. We'll just say manageable. And like they can recover. Are there any other words that you guys think I could put under here? Drop it in the chat. Recover. So thinking about this truth, safety, risky, truth versus risk meter. Consistent. Oh, I like that. Yes. And that's hard to be consistent. I remember, I like that. Listened to. Another one is just seen, right? I mean, I know I want to feel seen. Predictable. Ooh, you guys have got some good ones. I love it. Predictable. And patient, understood. Wow. Right? All of these goals. Right, patient up here because I ran out of room. Okay, unhurried is so good. Unhurried. Okay, so yes, so many good words that you guys have shared here. Thinking about, remember, our truth versus risk meter, they're constantly, this is going on in the background. They're not actually always saying that. Loved, okay, I'm gonna add that. This is just their software running in the background constantly with this truth risk meter, depending on what happened in the past, what's happening in the moment. They're constantly assessing. They're constantly assessing. And so it is important to be able to recognize what that looks like and feel like. So as an example, maybe your teen sneaks their phone at night and you ask, did you have your phone? Their brain instantly checks this meter. It feels like this is going to turn into a whole thing. Lie. If it feels like this might not be fun but manageable, some of the truth. If they feel some of these things, even if they've done it before, how are you responding? Same teen, same situation, different perceived risk. This is the part that changes everything. Okay, coming back to this meter. Your teen is not just deciding what's true, they're deciding what feels safer. Okay, I'm going to try and circle this without messing too much up. Constantly thinking of the truth risk meter. What feels safer? This is where most parents get stuck. They focus on, how do I get my teen to stop lying, instead of why does telling the truth feel like a bad idea right now. So remember with this shift number 1 that we talked about, what determines that is your reaction. So now that we know that your reaction trains the pattern, shift number 1, your teen is constantly assessing risk with shift number 2, which leads to the next question. What actually makes a parent feel safe to tell the truth to? Okay, that's what we're going to look at. And I've got this beautiful board. I got to take a picture of it. And I can send that to y'all in an email if you want. You'll also have access to this replay, which you can screenshot as well. I'll make sure I can see that. It seems like they're not actually thinking about this, but reacting automatically based on how safe inside they feel in the moment. Yes, right? They're not. They're still learning and growing. They're not actually thinking it through. And I think it's just so important to be able to remember that. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and we're going to go into shift number 3, you guys. I think I'm going to go over the hour. I apologize for that. But what my goal was to do all of the teaching in the hour, and then at the end of the hour, leave it open for questions or coaching, who wants it. And I might go 5 to 10 minutes over. So hopefully that's all right with you guys. And I saw some of you came in a little bit late. So just know I'm going to send out a replay to everyone who officially signed up and registered. So you'll get that link in an email. And if you don't get the link, message me, because sometimes those emails go to junk box, unfortunately. Okay, so let's do shift number 3. Shift number 3, which is the safe to tell zone. Okay, safe to tell zone. All right, doesn't that feel like the zone that you want to be in? Let's be in the safe to tell zone. So now that we know that your reaction trains the pattern, your teen is constantly asking, is this safe or risky? So the new question becomes, what actually makes a parent feel safe to tell the truth to? So we got 2 circles. All right, we got one circle here and another circle here. I want you to picture this. Every teen has 2 categories in their mind: unsafe to tell or safe to tell. And it is somewhat similar to the other, but you'll see a little difference. Unsafe to tell or safe to tell, right? And so remember I talked about how being a trusted mom is being an emotionally safe mom. We're talking about being this emotional leader. Parents I don't want to tell things to is right here. And parents, mom, I can tell things to. Here's the part that matters. Your teen is constantly placing you in one of these circles, not based off of what you say all the time, not based off of how much you love them, based on what it feels like to bring you the truth. So just like with our granola bar, remember we're going back to that story. In that moment, which circle was I in? I was in this unsafe to tell circle. I was teaching my kids, yeah, I don't really want to see anything right now. Or were they feeling like, yeah, it's no big deal, I'm just going to tell her. And again, this is not about blame. I like to share this story about myself because I like to normalize. We are all imperfect. We are all learning and growing. We all have blind spots. And I want to help normalize, yes, you have blind spots, and wouldn't it be great to learn what all of those are so that you can be that emotionally safe person? Because we don't know what we don't know. This is about awareness. So now let's look at what puts you inside of the unsafe circle. So we talked a little bit about reactions. Okay. And lectures, interrogation. This is from their perspective, right? This is teens' words. Lectures. I know it's not interrogation, but they feel it. So it's important to be able to identify, even if you don't think it's true. If they feel it, it's important to recognize that. And escalation. Okay. And then inside the safe circle, I love the word curious. We talk a lot about being curious, not furious. The goal is to regulate your nervous system, to be calm even when you're annoyed. You're human. You get to be annoyed. You get to be frustrated, disappointed, and measured and steady. These are the goals that we're hoping for. And some of them we listed a little bit. They cross over. That you can handle, even when you're frustrated and annoyed. You land here in this safe zone more when you land here when the moment feels intense, emotionally heavy. Oh, I'm reading the wrong part. I've got my notes here. The safe circle, the goal. And then the unsafe circle, you land here when it feels intense and emotionally heavy, like it might escalate, reactive, like they're going to get a reaction they don't want. So they're constantly assessing these two circles. Teens don't tell the truth to the parent who wants the truth the most. They tell the truth to the parent who can handle it. Now, some of you might be thinking, this sounds great, but that's just me. I'm just reactive, right? I've tried to change. This is how I am. It's always how it's going to be. I get that. I used to think that too. That used to be me. But I want you to hear this. A reaction is not your personality. It is a pattern, and patterns can be changed. Because here's the truth. Calm is not who you are. It's what you are trained to do. And most of us were not trained with emotionally regulated parents. Love them. It's just how it was for most of us. It is a skill that maybe you haven't learned yet, even when you want to be that person. So think of this. When a moment heats up, most parents match it. More questions, more urgency, more intensity, because your nervous system starts to get overworked and it becomes harder to become that safe place. But when you match their heat, you move yourself into this unsafe to tell circle because of how it feels. But when one person stays steady, the moment stays manageable. And when the moment feels manageable, telling the truth feels possible. I had a mom who I coached who said, my teen lies about the smallest things. I don't get it. And when we looked at her pattern, every time she sensed something was off, she came in fast. More questions, more intensity, more urgency. It doesn't have to be yelling to be unsafe. Because to her teen, it felt like this is going to turn into a whole thing. So they avoided it. When she learned to slow the moment down through the strategies and tools that I teach to steady herself first, something changed gradually. Her teen started giving more truth, more detail, more openness. So summarizing shift number 3, what you think is the problem, my teen just lies too much. What's actually happening is your teen is deciding whether you are safe to tell. And why this matters is because honesty does not grow from pressure. It grows from what the moment feels like. You don't have to have a different teenager. You need to become the parent your teenager experiences differently. And this is what I call emotional leadership. Not controlling your teen, not getting the perfect words, leading the emotional climate of the moment. And when that shifts, your teen starts showing up differently after you start first. They tell the truth to the parent who can handle it. Hear me say this, you are not just reactive, you are untrained, and untrained can become trained. Most of us were not trained this emotional regulation growing up. So this is important. It's not your fault. You haven't learned the skill, and it is not too late to learn. Calm is not a personality, it is training. Think of it as a lever. So if lying isn't just about fixing your teenager or asking better questions, what does it mean? It's actually really good news. You are the lever. Pulling on the lever. You set the tone. Let me explain. A lever is a small point of pressure that moves something much bigger. It's not about blame. This is leverage. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, my teen is actually a big problem. And listen, two things can be true. Your teen can be challenging, and you still have more influence than you realize. And I know this idea can feel heavy at first, like, wait, this is all on me. But my hope is that this feels empowering. I want you to lift up your muscles. This feels empowering because you don't have to sit around waiting for your teen to become more honest. When you do something different, the dynamic changes. You cannot control your teenager, but you can change what it feels like for them to tell the truth. And when that shifts, they start showing up differently too. Now, let's be honest for a second. Most of you have been trying to figure this out on your own. You've read the books, you've listened to the podcast, you've saved the posts, maybe even done therapy, and you've gained insight. And sometimes insight without actual implementation, being in the field, it doesn't create change. Implementation without support generally does not last under pressure, because when those moments hit, your teen lies and something feels off, and you go back to your default patterns because you haven't been trained and practice what to do instead. You know how a lifeguard doesn't sit quietly when someone starts drifting out too far? She doesn't say, hey, whenever you feel like it, come back in. She blows the whistle, she jumps in, she gets loud if she needs to because she can see something that you cannot see yet. And some of you are in that place right now with distance emotionally and likely physically, where they're isolating in the room. You're noticing less honesty and more hiding, more I don't knows, more gaps in what you're being told, and you're thinking, this feels off, and I'm not going to sit here quietly while you drift further into that. If you've had thoughts like, I don't want this to be our new normal, or even I'm scared they won't come to me when this really matters, you are in the right place, because there is a way to change this pattern. You can create a new default response. This is my expertise. I will teach you how in the trusted method. But what we did today was the why. You now understand how your reactions train the pattern, how your teen is calculating risk, how they decide whether you are safe to tell. But knowing this is not enough. Insight without training doesn't create change. This is not about trying harder tomorrow. It's not about willpower. I know you want to. This is about learning a skill. So let me talk about one of my favorite stories is telling about my son in high school. He took a Spanish class. He learned the vocabulary and the grammar. He could pass the test, but when he actually tried speaking, he wasn't fluent. He struggled. He was frustrated. I don't actually know Spanish at all after 3 years. What's up with this? And when he actually did become fluent is when he moved to the Dominican Republic. He was surrounded by the language. He was immersed in it. He used it every day. And that's when the language clicked. That's what real learning looks like. And that's what I've created for moms inside of my program. A place to immerse yourself in the language, in the trusted language, in the skill of emotional leadership. So you're not just understanding it, you are becoming it. This is about changing the software in your mind, reprogramming yourself. And when you immerse with other people who are learning the same trusted emotional safety language, it's an accelerated growth. Now, before I answer a few questions, I see there have been a few comments. I haven't read them yet. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be coached in a minute too. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about the next step. Look at that. I'm almost right at the hour. So I have for you the Trusted Academy, the place to learn the trusted language, to be immersed with others on that same journey. So I'm going to show you what this looks like beyond today. Inside the Trusted Academy, you're not just getting ideas, you're getting a clear roadmap of trainings that walk you step by step how to become the emotional leader your teen trusts and wants to tell the truth to. So let me tell you what this actually looks like beyond today. And I've got a couple of Trusted Academy members. I think they were here watching, so they can type in the chat somewhat their experience of what it's been like for them, how they're in the practice of reinstalling updating their software. What that means for you is you stop guessing, you stop lying in bed, replaying conversations, wondering if you've handled it wrong, and instead you start operating from clarity and you know how to respond in a way that actually moves the relationship forward. And the real value is this: you become the kind of mom who walks into hard moments calm, grounded, and steady because you no longer are thrown off by every emotion, every attitude, every situation, and you trust yourself in how you lead. There's a mom in the Trusted Academy that I have been chatting with, and I remember her telling me before she chose to step into this work, she said, I feel like my teen lies about everything, even the small things. She felt disconnected, frustrated, and honestly a little hurt. She decided she did not want another year of that dynamic, so she stepped into the program to learn the Trusted Method. And just a few weeks in, she sent me this message. I caught my teen in a lie again, and I almost reacted the way I always did. But this time I paused, I stayed calm, we talked, and instead of shutting down, they actually told me more and apologized. That has never happened before, and that is the shift. A different response, a completely different outcome. And that right there, being able to stay steady, to not get pulled into every situation, to lead without losing yourself, that's what you want, right? That's exactly what we build inside of the Trusted Academy. So if you're sitting here thinking, I don't want to keep doing this the same way, something has to change, this is your next step. When I created this program, I went to a business coach and I said, let me tell you what I want to offer moms, and you tell me what I should charge. And I said, I've got a bunch of 10-minute modules that teach them blind spots, where I share my story all along with it, so moms can feel seen when they don't even realize that they're creating distance. But I don't want to just drop a course in their lap and walk away. I do have a course if you want to ask about that, if you don't want support. I said, I want to be in the trenches with them. I want them to have access to me one-on-one. So that's the second part of the course or of the program. Not like therapy where they're recounting every tricky scenario from the past, but more present and forward-facing, real guidance on real-life situation that's happening. And I want them to do these trainings with other moms in the trenches because I've seen the value of learning from others on that same journey. If you've seen from today, from the comments from others, this secondhand experience where you hear someone else's situation and realize, wait, that's me too. And moms will get support where they didn't even know they needed it. 3 components that produce life-changing results when they all work together. So I laid out what it looks like to my coach, and this is what she said. What I should charge for this 90-day experience where moms walk away transformed into the trusted version of themselves, confident, knowing what to say, how to repair, how to connect, not just 10 years from now. This is estrangement prevention. She looked at me and she said, Kristen, this is a real life-changing program. It will change generations. This is worth $8,000 minimum. And I kind of paused. I thought, okay, interesting. That's good to know. But I also said, I want this to be accessible to more moms that I feel that that price range would allow. And she said something that stuck with me. She said, this is their child. When they understand the value of the relationship, they will invest whatever it takes. If they are ready to stop treading water to have something different than what they have right now, to have that accelerated growth and access to you, the daily expert, they will do whatever it takes to step into that space. They can pay now or they will pay much later when it gets worse. And I thought, okay, true, interesting, because I also know when something is too accessible, it's undervalued. As humans, we don't always show up. I have had a program in the past that was priced much lower, and I watched moms say yes and then not actually follow through. Have you ever done that? Have you ever purchased something that was an easy purchase and then you didn't follow through because it almost felt too easy? It's not that those moms didn't care, but there wasn't enough at stake. Not enough of a punch. It was too easy to say, I'll get to it later. And I don't want that for you. So this is where we find the sweet spot, when you feel the pinch enough to show up, but you're supported enough to actually see change. Because what you're creating here, what I show you how to build as the emotional leader in your home, is a remarkable relationship with your teenager that compounds over time. You start the work in this group setting and then you take it over time and it flourishes into their adult years. You will install that new software in your brain of how to respond a new normal, an upgraded version of yourself. I will be your accountability partner. You have to believe that it's possible, because whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. Whatever your brain is telling you. I wasn't so sure back then, but after a year of seeing moms step into the Trusted Academy, I've seen their exponential growth. I've heard them share the stories, their joys of them excitedly sharing with me the responses from their teen that they never thought was possible. I've seen their joy at stepping in to the trusted mom they always dreamed they would be. And now I fully understand the value that that coach recommended. However, this is my business, and I decided on the sweet spot that actually produces action. So for the Trusted Academy, I'm going to write this down on here. So it's a 90-day experience. 90-day program. Writing that, can you see? Trusted Academy. Oops, I cannot spell. I run out of space. So it's a 90-day experience. And for that 90-day program where you get the roadmap. You walk step by step. I walk with you along with other moms. It's a 2,997 investment or 3 months of $9.99 each month. 3 different payments. And if you pay in full, I take $200 off. Your first meeting is tomorrow if you're ready to jump in right away, or if you want to think about it through the weekend. This offer ends Monday night. We can discuss what that looks like with your questions right here on this call, or I have openings for one-on-one clarity calls with me this afternoon. I'm going to drop a link if you want to schedule a clarity call. Now listen, if you're feeling something right now, that pull, that conviction, write down your thoughts. I'm a big fan of journaling to better understand what's going on in your mind. What would need to be true for you to feel confident making this decision right now? If you had the resources, does it feel like a good fit? Then I want you to pause tonight and articulate. Go to your spouse, tell him how you feel. You're ready for this next step. Show him a part of the recording that stood out to you. Tell him, I want to become the emotional leader in our home. I want to break this cycle. And I'll say this honestly, some husbands jump in, ready to do the work with you. Some don't yet, and that's okay. Sometimes they need to see your growth first. But I want you to picture this 90 days from now. You're heading into summer, you're on a family vacation, and your teenager who has felt the shift in you walks next to you, puts their arm around you and says, Mom, thank you. I know I can be hard sometimes. Thank you for not giving up on me. They may not fully understand what changed yet, but they feel it. And eventually they start to change too. So let me ask you something. Is that something you want? Maybe something you crave. If it is, I would love to welcome you into the Trusted Academy. You can look over the information. I'm going to also send it in an email, both the link to the info page for the Trusted Academy and a link to sign up for a call, and I'll also drop them here in a minute. Look over the information, the testimonials from other moms on that page. If you're ready, you can jump in today and be on your first call tomorrow. And if you're unsure, like I said, I've got these clarity calls that we can chat one-on-one. I can talk you through your situation. I also have some scholarship options available. So if that's you, reach out sooner rather than later. And I want to say this before we close. Some of you are feeling that painful pinch right now, that awareness of possible heaviness, of recognizing you have room for growth. That's a great thing. We all have room for growth. I have been there too, but I'm not going to let you sit in that pain. No more victimhood. This is a space of awareness, of hope, of leadership. You have come too far with your teenager to only come this far. I saw the pain in my own mom's eyes, wanting connection, but not knowing how to do it differently. And we never fully repaired before she passed away. And I decided that ends with me. I refuse to have a mediocre relationship with my kids. So for the last 10 years, I rebuilt this roadmap into a trusted method, a defined method for myself and for you, a way to teach you skills, practice together, go in a wobbly way, and then come back for feedback to refine again and again until it becomes who you are. This is a learnable skill. It's not your fault. You were not taught this, but it is your opportunity now. So if you're ready to step into the next version of yourself, the mom who knows what to say, the mom who does the spiral, the mom who her teen actually listens to, this is your moment. Okay, look at that, 8 minutes over, not terrible. Applaud you guys for holding on till the end. So I'm gonna see what questions you have. If anyone is here that wants to ask me a question, you can come off mic. I can talk to you directly, answer a question that you have, or coach you through a scenario you have, whether it's about lying or something else. This is your chance to ask me any question. Okay, Kate, I love seeing your face again. So delightful. I see Allison or Nancy, if either of you want to ask a question, you can. Or Ada, I'm familiar. She's in the academy, and so she could probably ask me a question later. Kate, did you want to ask about anything?
Yeah, sure. Your classes are just so energizing and amazing, and I always come away feeling like I've changed, I've grown, and you've actually been, I've taken a ton of parenting classes, and you've been pivotal to my own, just having more fun with my kid, and it's just changed everything. So I'm really
Oh,
grateful.
that makes
Yeah,
me so happy to hear. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing. I
yeah.
love that. I'm going to
Oh,
read
for sure.
through and see. I know some people had to hop off at the hour mark,
Hmm.
so hopefully they can watch the replay. Let's see. It seems like they're not actually thinking about this, but reacting automatically. Yes, when the mom wants to hear one answer and is not open to hearing other possibilities. When we're regulated, we respond instead of react because of our prefrontal cortex is working to help us. Otherwise, we regress. I stop, yell, and get quiet, but he interprets even as I'm angry. Yes, right. It's true. Even if we're not yelling, our kids are feeling us. They're reading us, right? They can tell what's going on. And so it really is about the conversation that you have with them. And that is a lot of what I teach. The how. We now understand the why. Yes, thank you. Another meeting. Okay, great. Watching the replay. Great, great, great. I came late, so I'll watch the replay. Perfect. No, I just want to make sure I read through all of this, finish on the replay. Great, so good. Okay, Allison or Nancy, do either one of you want to ask a question in the chat or come off mic and share? I recognize that it can feel a little vulnerable to do that. Oh, okay, Nancy says she's at work, but she can listen. Okay, yes, I'm going to drop a link real quick for if y'all want to schedule a one-on-one chat. I have some spots open today that I can do that with, and we can get on, we can talk about what moving into the academy might look like, or we can talk about how support in general can be beneficial. So I'm going to drop that. You're so welcome, Nancy. And I'm going to drop the link to, all right, let's see, it's just the two of us. Okay, I'm going to end this call so people don't have to watch all of this on the replay, but thanks for being here, Kate. Loved seeing your face, and I'm grateful to be able to support you. Okay, bye.